film Persona, produced by the Swedish director Ingmar Bergman in 1966, is a psychological drama that delves deeply into themes of identity, mental health, and human connection. The movie begins with a serial montage of abstract and unsettling images: a projector flickering, a spider, a lamb being slaughtered, and a boy waking up in a hospital-like environment, touching a blurred image of two women. These images set a disorienting dreamlike tone for the story. The story begins with Elisabeth Vogler, a famous actress suddenly stops speaking during a performance. The doctor determined there is nothing physically wrong with her and suggests her condition may be psychological. She assigned a nurse, Alma, who takes her to the doctor's quiet seaside cottage for recovery. At first, Alma takes charge of their relationship, speaking to Elisabeth about her life, hopes, and insecurities, and confesses her secrets. Elisabeth listens silently, creating an air of intimacy and vulnerability that draws Alma closer to her. As time passes, Alma begins to feel manipulated by Elisabeth's silence. She reads a letter Elisabeth wrote mocking her confessions and calling her childish. Alma confronts Elisabeth, leading to a violent fight and series of emotional breakdowns. The boundary between the two women starts to dissolve, their personalities and identities seem to merge. The climax comes when Alma accuses Elisabeth of being emotionally cold and selfish, specifically referencing Elisabeth's abandonment of her child, which Elisabeth silently acknowledged. Alma's breakdown reflects her growing realization that Elisabeth's silence forces her to confront her own insecurities. The film ends ambiguously. Both of them leave the cottage and Elisabeth remains mute. The story closes with the same serial imagery from the beginning, leaving the narrative open to interpretation. The film employs minimalist storytelling, with an intense focus on atmosphere and environment. The stark, isolated settings, such as the seaside house and the hospital, reflect the characters' emotional states. The monochrome cinematography accentuates contrasts. Light and shadow symbolize inner conflicts and duality. The natural element, like the ocean and barren landscapes, create an ethereal, almost surreal environment that amplifies the psychological tension. Silence and pauses in dialogue allow the environment to speak for the characters, making it as much a protagonist as the two women. Persona is rife with symbolism. The merging and splitting of the two women, Elisabeth Vogler, the actress who has stopped speaking, and Alma the nurse, symbolize the fragility and multiplicity of their identity. The recurring of the random serial imagery of broken film reels and fragmented faces used both in the beginning and ending of the film emphasized the breakdown of boundaries between reality and illusion to create confusion and questioning to the viewer and also to instill strangeness. Elisabeth's silence can be seen as a rejection of societal roles, while Alma's monologue reveals suppressed desires and fears. The projection of their personas onto each other reflects their search for self-awareness and reconciliation with their inner conflicts. The key symbols include the shattered face, which suggests fractured identities or the duality within the self. The film medium itself represents the act of creation, illusion, and performance inherent in human interaction. The blood and violence imagery allows to the awareness of human emotion and trauma. The characters of Elisabeth and Alma undergo significant yet ambiguous development, embodying layered archetypes that deepen the psychological and symbolic complexity of persona. Elisabeth's refusal to speak renders her an enigmatic figure, allowing Alma to project her own thoughts and insecurities onto her. Initially, the caregiver Alma gradually unravels emotionally as she confronts her suppressed desires and moral dilemmas. The director's use is an illusory narrative structure amplifies this complicity, creating a dynamic interplay that blurs the boundaries of their identities. Elizabeth is a rebel, in her silence as an act of defiance against societal norms, rejecting imposed roles and expectations. Truthful, she embodies an unspoken truth about the fertility of language and the fragility of constructed identities. Destroyer, her enigmatic presence destabilized Alma, dismantling her sense of self and triggering a psychological collapse. Alma, on the other hand, is benefactor. Initially, she approaches Elizabeth with compassion and empathy, embodying care and support. Free spirit. Through her confessions and confrontations, she reveals a yearning to break free from societal constraints. Dominator. As her frustration grows, Alma seeks to assert power over Elizabeth, demanding recognition and submission in a desperate attempt to reclaim control. Together, they transcend individual archetypes, becoming a mirror to one another's struggles and a reflection of humanity's dualities. They blur the line between crusader, seeking and searching for a deeper understanding of self, the malefactor, inflicting emotional harm on each other, and the destroyer, breaking down the very notions of identity and reality. Their symbiotic and hostile relationship challenges traditional character arcs, transforming them into fluid, interdependent constructs rather than distinct individuals. This intricate blend of archetypes and character development elevates Persona into a profound exploration of human psyche, dismantling conventional narratives and inviting the audience into an unsettling yet deeply thought-provoking experience. The ending of Persona is famously open-ended and invites endless interpretation. As the narrative dissolves into abstract imagery and Elizabeth remains silent, the audience is left to ponder whether Alma's identity has been submerged by Elizabeth or if they were always two sides of the same psyche. The fragmented film, real and abrupt shifts suggest that the story may not be literal, but a metaphorical exploration of inner struggles. This openness makes the ending more impactful, as it forces viewers to confront their interpretation of identity, connection, and the nature of reality.